Wildcats. I'm Zaira Altayeb.
And I'm Molly Stitt.
And thank you for joining us on this
Word to the Wildcat podcast.
On this sunny day, we will be discussing sustainability on campus.
We would like to introduce today's guests.
Hi, I'm Heidi Flores. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a senior. I will be graduating in environmental science with a specialization in geography this quarter, and I am the Environmental Club president.
I'm Susan Kaspari, she, her, hers pronouns. I'm a professor in Geological Sciences, and I also teach in the Environmental Studies program. I am currently the Provost Fellow for Sustainability and one of the Provost Fellows for Sustainability, and I sit on CWU Sustainability Council.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing and introducing yourselves. So today we'd like to kind of start off with what is sustainability and how can it affect us and how is it important for students, especially on campus?
Well, sustainability is more than environmental sustainability. So when you think environmental sustainability, you think about recycling and biking and your ecological footprint, but it can also be social and economic. So it's three pillars, and it's more than just environmental sustainability, which is usually what people think when they think about sustainability.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, I'll just chime in. So the pillars are equity, environment, and economy. Mm-hmm. And so it's really the interaction of those three things together is what makes up sustainability. But a lot of people are most commonly think about it as environment. And many people, I think, probably very few people, if you say sustainability, are thinking the exact same thing. So everyone kind of has their own definition of sustainability depending upon their own experiences and what they bring to it. Mm-hmm. But we're really those three main concepts are very much interrelated. And so we can't have one without considering the others.
Yeah.
So when talking about sustainability on campus, what are some of the programs offered to really educate students on how to be sustainable in the more environmental aspects?
So one event that happens every quarter is the Sustainability Cafe, which shows all what's going on campus. For example, I know that there's a group that focuses on electric vehicles. There's another group that focuses on planting native plants, and there's several groups that are trying to be more sustainable on campus. And I know Dr. Kaspari runs the sustainability certificate, which is something that has been going on for a couple of years now.
Yeah, so the sustainability cafes, those are an opportunity for students, staff, and faculty to all come together to work on sustainability efforts. And so that's been a really great grassroots effort to just bring together people that are passionate. And so as Heidi said, there's a really wide range of projects each year. Some of those are self-identified within the community and others are in response to a need. But those have been going on for several years now, and some of those groups have been have been continuing to meet year after year. And so we have two programs that I'd like to highlight. Is we have our Sustainability Certificate program, and so that's a certificate that's open to any student from any major. So it spans all colleges, and Heidi completed the Sustainability Certificate in our first year. But so students for that, they take a course called Intro to Sustainability, and then there's a quarter that they spend on an experiential learning project where they're working with a campus or a community partner on a project that is helping to advance sustainability. And then there's a capstone where they're kind of tying up the project. And the sustainability certificate was really created to be able to provide students with kind of real world experiences with implementing change. And so a lot of the courses we teach, we just finished doing a survey of sustainability courses, and we have a couple hundred courses on campus that integrate components of sustainability, but a lot of times we're focused in our courses more so on content knowledge rather than actually putting things into practice. And so the sustainability certificate is a real benefit to students when they go out to seek employment, and that they have gained experience with starting with an idea and then actually working with stakeholders and implementing change. So they get a lot of those real experiences of encountering barriers and how you overcome those. But we've had students from all colleges complete the certificate and participate in a wide range of projects that are helping to improve social, economic, and environmental sustainability in our community. Another program that we're just launching this fall that I'm really excited about is we're starting a new sustainability living learning community. And so that will be housed in Wendell Hill Hall B. And that is an opportunity for students, once again, from any major, from any level, to be able to live together and explore the ideas around sustainability. So to join that community, all that is needed is an interest in sustainability. But our hope is that we'll be able to bring together students that have a broad range of backgrounds and perspectives on sustainability, who can live together and learn from each other, and then eventually, hopefully some of those will become our future leaders of sustainability on campus. So it's a great opportunity for us to be able to get connected to those students at an earlier stage of their time here at CWU.
Thank you for sharing that. I did not know there was that many opportunities for students to get involved, so there's really no excuse. So that's really good to hear.
Well,
Yeah.
and Heidi, do you want to just speak to the Environmental Club? Because that also has a wide range of students that participate in that too.
Yeah, CWU Environmental Club is another way to help sustainability efforts. We meet on Thursdays.
Other opportunities include that we have so CWU has a Sustainability Council, and we have student members on that. So if a student's really interested, they can reach out to Kathleen Klinecki, who's CWU's really excellent sustainability coordinator. So she's in charge of the Sustainability Council to see if there's availability to serve on that council. And that has representation from across campus. And we have usually around 4 student representatives on it. And then another really great way to get involved on campus with sustainability efforts is at the Wildcat Neighborhood Farm. So that's run by Kate Dowdy, and there's a lot of opportunities there for students to volunteer, and there's research that happens there. There's all kinds of student projects that are going on at the farm all the time. And so a lot of the produce from the farm comes directly into CWU dining. So it's all organic farming and a really local, real local source of food. So students can always reach out to the CWU farm to look for opportunities to get involved there too.
And with actually, Environmental Club was a big part of hiring Kathleen Konecki 2 years ago, or 3 now, I think. Our CW Environmental Club president 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, sorry. They spoke with the provost to hire Kathleen Konecki, or have at least a sustainability coordinator on campus. So that is something Environmental Club does. Overall, this...
I just say, the students,
Yeah.
the Environmental Club gathered more than 1,500 signatures from students in support of that role being created.
Yeah, and it really took a burden off students trying to do every sustainability event, and now she puts on the sustainability cafes and does more on campus for economic and equity sustainability. But Environmental Club this quarter or this year has been focusing on environmental sustainability. We, as a group, go to events that SLICE puts on. I know there's a lot going on this Earth Month, and we are going to be going as a group, so students have a group to go with and not be afraid to go to the farm by themselves, because I know I was. So with Environmental Club having a group, it's nice to have that community. You can participate in events. We also host our own events. Last quarter, we did a campus cleanup. And it was pretty successful. We found all sorts of trash, which I guess is good, and it's bad. It's bad. But
it's eye-opening.
Yeah, we found a hairbrush. So.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But we will be having another one next month. Not this month because it's super busy with Earth Month.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And we will be going to the Yakima River cleanup that SLICE is putting on as a group. And so it's a way to find other people that are interested in raising awareness about sustainability on campus. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think something I really want to highlight that was said was that that most of the programs have a wide variety of, the different majors that are within that program, because a lot of people will think that, you have to be in biology or something science-based. So that's really nice that you can be in any major and still, work towards that aspect of sustainability, especially if it's something you're passionate about and you may have chose, a different major, if that makes sense. So I think that's really nice that you can be kind of from any department and partake in that.
Yeah, only 2 of our officers are actually in the environmental science program. The others are biology, fashion, and accounting. So,
That's really good to hear.
I mean, personally, I'm going to become a teacher, and so educating myself with how I can be sustainable and how I can implement sustainable practices within the classroom, and also with children who are going to be future adults and going to be the ones running this earth. And so just sustainability, like I love that it does apply to everyone. So let's kind of change the conversation here and kind of go to global climate change. What is the importance of awareness regarding climate change?
Obviously, it's tremendously important. I mean, we just had another report come out this week saying, if we don't address things in the next couple of years, we're facing cataclysmic consequences. And we hear that over and over again. And we continue to run into challenges in terms of governments taking the level of action that's actually needed. But I would say that the awareness and understanding is increasing tremendously. By far, the majority of Americans at this point in time understand that the climate is changing, that humans are by far the dominant cause of the change that's happening. A large portion of them understand that their lives have already been impacted by climate change. I think the question is how much do people understand that the amount of warming that we've had so far is fairly modest to the trajectory that we're currently on. What is really hard is it's an extraordinarily serious problem that we face, and something that really needs to be able to be addressed. The problem is that so many people end up feeling very hopeless in the face of it, and so many people feel that they don't have the ability to be able to do something about it, and so there can be a somewhat apathetic response by a lot of people. And so I think that's the big challenge is discussing the seriousness of the problem, while also empowering people to engage on it and to act in ways that support us to move in the direction that is so widely recognized that we need to move. So we've got to be rapidly drawing down emissions. And the way that we do that is at absolutely all levels. So it happens from, yes, we need international leadership, and we need national leadership, and we need state level leadership, but and a lot of those things feel like they're out of the reach for many of us, besides, going and voting at the time that it's time to vote. And that, of course, is really important. But the way that we address this is also starting at the bottom up. So much of this movement was initiated as a grassroots effort, and there's so much that we can be doing, starting, both within our own lives, so looking at what we as individuals do, but then also starting to take a few steps further beyond that. So I teach a number of climate change related courses, and I often talk with my students there of, what is your realm of influence? So, how can you take it one step beyond the choices that we make? Because a lot of times students aren't sure what they can do beyond, they take the recycled, their reusable water bottle, and, they take the reusable bags, and some students think that they're doing a good job. And so it's a matter of people understanding what those extra steps are that they can take, and then, what is your realm of influence? Do you go to church? Who are the members in your community who you can speak about this with? Who are your family members with whom you can speak about it with? And so most of us have, people in our lives that we can influence to do a better job and to understand the problem and to care about it. And so rather than looking at it as this really big problem that we can't touch, there's so much opportunity within our own lives and with our own community to make a difference. And so a lot of those opportunities that Heidi and I were talking about earlier to get involved in campus, there's so many places where we can make CWU a more sustainable institution, where we can reduce the carbon footprint of CWU. And there's opportunities for students to get involved in that in so many different ways. And so that's a fairly long-winded way to just say that everybody can be part of it. And
I think it's a very layered situation. I think I was trying to remember each point you said, because you said so many important ones. I think it's very important to speak to, like at a societal level, of how sometimes global warming can come across as like a lost cause to a lot of people, because even the commercials, they show like the ice caps melting and the polar bears, and and a lot of people feel like there's nothing to really be done. And so I think that's very important, that you have to kind of start, I don't know how to phrase it.
Yeah, it can be very overwhelming.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to emphasize, is that so I think we need to focus on more of what we can do and taking, those measures to prevent it, versus looking at that as kind of like, something that can't be fixed or it's too far gone.
Right.
If that makes sense. Have you ever seen the commercials? I feel like sometimes it can scare people a lot, and it will kind of stop people because, they're like, this is going to happen anyways. And there is a lot of people with that mentality. There's a lot of people that don't even believe in global warming. So, it's kind of all over the place. But, just taking those small steps, whether it's, and again, some things have a lot to do with privilege and what people can afford, and some people can't always choose the more sustainable choice, but there are small steps you can take, such as, not getting a straw every time you go out, or investing in like a reusable bag, and not, every time you go shopping, getting loads of plastic bags, and small steps like that that I think that is more obtainable to the everyday college student.
Yeah, or like meatless Mondays,
Exactly.
to kind of reduce how much animal product you're consuming, because the meat industry and the dairy industry are a big chunk of greenhouse gas emissions.
And even clothing, that's a big topic within college students, and not trying to not shop on fast fashion sites, or if you do, actually wearing the clothes and not wearing them once or twice and throwing them away, like trying to donate your clothes, give them a second lifespan, because if you look at where all these clothes that you throw away actually goes, and what it does to the planet, you probably wouldn't do it as much as you do. So just small things like that. And I can think of so many, even when you're like packing your lunch, not going for like a Ziploc bag or something that you're going to throw away, or like using reusable, dishes, and small things like that. I think that's something that I really want to highlight, things that are more obtainable and applied to kind of the average day.
Well, in this past quarter, Kathleen Klinecki had brought in the author of the Field Guide to Climate Anxiety, and one of the, a lot of college-age students, there's many people that have this feeling of anxiety around it. But one of the big tenets in her book is based around the ideas of that all things start small, and so if it's just a matter of, for us, we use Ziplocs, but we always rewash them and use them many, many, many times. And no, we're not going to solve the problem through those small efforts, but is it better to take that effort than not at all? Absolutely. One other point that I would add on is that focusing on that things are moving in a positive direction is really important too, to battle that feeling of kind of gloom and doom about it. So, we used to, the amount of warming that we were projecting by the end of this century, kind of the more worst case projections is a little bit lower than it used to be, because we've got more and more governments in agreement about what needs to be done, and more policies starting to come into play to be able to support those. And then there's things like looking at, you can look at the United States energy mix over the last several years, and every year you see a real increase in how much of our energy is starting to come from wind and how much is coming from solar, and the price of those technologies have come down considerably over time. So there's those kinds of encouraging indicators that we can look at as well to try to battle those feelings.
Yeah, and she brought up a good point about not everyone has the same resources, and something I've noticed as a college student is that people are becoming more aware about sustainability, but they're seeing it as a trend, or it's trendy to wear, use a reusable straw or a tote bag, but then, those tote bags, they don't even use them, they just buy them so they could fit in with a certain aesthetic. But it is important to remember that you can be sustainable by using what you already have. I know a lot of people buy the bamboo forks and straws, but it's like you already have forks at your house. You can just use that and carry it with you. I did that. I bought a bamboo fork and then it broke, and then I was like, wait, I have some at home. And yeah, it's not a trend, I guess, because climate change is not going away anytime soon. So just taking into account that not everyone has the same resources, and so you can't judge people for how environmentally friendly they are.
No.
Yeah.
But the point that you made, that was a point brought up from some of my students this last quarter, where they were like, I can't afford to buy an electric vehicle. And, there were a few students that were really feeling some angst about that. And it's like, that's not expected from you at all at this point in time. But there's those smaller fixes, like you were saying, like, it doesn't mean people need to commit to becoming vegan, but if you can reduce meat in your diet, a day, even if it's a meal a week or a day a week, those kind of efforts collectively start to really add up.
Yeah.
And everybody's in a position to be able to do that.
Yeah. And with the weather getting more nice, an option can also be walking to class or biking to class instead of driving to class. Because, that 5-minute drive might be nice for you, but also, like, you're starting your car, you're driving, and you're parking your car, and then you're starting it all over again, and it just kind of, small things that we can fix.
Yeah, there's been a problem on this campus with students moving lots between classes with their cars, and I don't know that everyone realizes how much quicker it is to get around this town on bike or on foot sometimes than it is by car. So
yeah,
and we've got some really good public transport in town too.
Yeah, that is included in your tuition.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't drive, so I always walk or take public transportation. I very rarely go to the Uber route, but I think a lot of people need to realize that it is a lot faster if you just walk to your classes. I have friends that will literally start kind of at the same starting point, and I'll get there faster than them because I'm only walking 5 minutes, but the time it takes for them to get in their car, find a parking spot, which is pretty much impossible here, at 9 a.m., and then have to walk all the way from wherever they were, able to find a spot. They're always like 5 to 10 minutes later than walking. So and it saves money. You don't have to pay for gas as often. So it's always been such a strange concept to me, the way that people are so, I don't want to say obsessed, but
stuck in their routine
without realizing that you're actually, spending more time and more money doing it that way than just doing it the more sustainable way, which is walking. So, and I think that's something that obviously can be applied to college students, because that's something I really want to highlight, because again, when talking about, sustainability and global warming and the anxiety around that, I just really want to highlight that there's really small steps that you can take that really do make an impact versus, telling people that they have to donate this amount of money to this organization or something that's not obtained. Like, the average college student doesn't have hundreds of dollars to donate, but they more times do than don't, have that time to walk to class instead of starting their car, or, getting a reusable straw, or not getting a plastic cup every time you go out, or things like that. So I think that's really important too.
Well, and like you said too, the idea of sustainability. So the United Nations has these 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and we're increasingly using that as a framework for teaching sustainability on campus. But one of those goals is good health and well-being, and it's exactly that. There's so many of these things where walking is obviously much better for your health. In my own department, I see people all the time, students waiting to catch the elevator up, and I walk the 2 flights of stairs up, and I usually beat them, and then I see them come out a little while later, and
I'm guilty of that one. Yeah. So on the 18th of April, we will be hosting an event called A Slice of Earth Day. That will be an event that helps students and faculty or whoever's in the circ at that time measure their ecological footprint, and with that, the goal is to provide those people with alternatives to their daily lifestyle that could help lessen that footprint. And there is a difference between ecological and carbon footprint. I'm not educated enough to tell you the difference, so would you mind
Sure.
going into the difference?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different online tools that people can take to assess what their impact is. A lot of them will measure what your carbon impact is, and from a climate change perspective, that's really important. The one that's being used, that we recommended to be used for this particular event, is an ecological footprint. So it's instead looking holistically at Earth resources. So it includes the carbon footprint aspect of it. But what it ends up giving you is an output of, if everyone on Earth lived the same lifestyle as you, how many Earths would we require to be able to support your lifestyle? And so we've had students take this quiz in a number of courses over time, and it usually varies. If you're doing your best as an American to live a fairly low impact lifestyle, you'll find that if everyone on Earth, all humans on Earth, live the same kind of lifestyle as you, it would usually require a couple Earths to be able to support that lifestyle. Whereas students that are driving a lot or flying a lot or consuming a lot of products, those students may find that they would need more like 5 Earths to be able to support. But the quiz is really great. It asks all kinds of questions about, how large of a dwelling do you live in? How efficient of a vehicle do you drive? How much do you drive? How many goods do you consume? How much do you travel? And you can take it in a way that goes fairly into depth. And what I think is really powerful about it is that you can look at it. And I mean, for me, I used to fly quite a bit, and that was by far my largest source of my footprint. And so I've changed my travel behaviors a fair bit in recent years. COVID, of course, made that easier, but have reduced my impact that way. And other students realize it's the fast fashion that is one of their biggest sources. So it's nice in that you can look at it and just see little ways that you can tweak your lifestyle to be able to make it more sustainable.
Yeah, I took it recently, and I was surprised. I thought I was more environmentally friendly, and I got 3.6, and that's because I included 3.6 Earths. Is what we would need if everyone was living like me. So that was surprising. It was definitely the traveling. I put like an anticipating flight that for this summer, so I was like, okay, let's be realistic. And I think the U.S. had said something like 5 Earths, so I felt a little better, but I definitely still need to work on cutting back on driving and getting my food from more local sources, because that's hard as a college student, at least for me. I know, I could go to the Cirque and get food from the farm, but I'm off campus, so that makes it hard. But it's just it makes you realize how much you're actually impacting the Earth, I guess.
And it's important to highlight that the goal is to do the best that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
We're not striving for like perfection, because again, that's very hard, especially for college students. And just because you brought up like the food thing, like I'm vegetarian, so it's very limited to what I can eat on campus. And so I do have to go off campus a lot, and that does kind of interfere with my footprint per se. But again, I don't have an option to not eat. So like that, I just want to highlight that it's more about picking little things that you can change that's realistic to your lifestyle, and not focusing on perfection, because I feel like the idea can kind of get lost when you do that.
Yeah, I go in a cycle. I'm like, if I get this food, if I go off campus to find food I'm also vegetarian, I will have energy to save the Earth. And but hopefully I can get out of that cycle once I'm not a college student anymore, and like get my food without such a big footprint, and save the Earth on the side. So it's all these things you have to go back and forth and rationalize it. Like it's hard as a college student, but you can do it for sure.
All right, so we've had some great conversation here today. Are there any other kind of clubs or events happening that students may find interesting regarding sustainability?
Environmental Club meets every other Thursday in Dean 205 at 5 p.m. And we will discuss current environmental news, and for this month we'll be discussing what's going on for Earth Month. And our campus cleanup will be May 13th at 4 p.m. So yeah.
And do you have an Instagram or something for Environmental Club so anyone can find the information for the meetings?
Yeah, that's actually where we keep our most up-to-date info.
Perfect,
On
okay.
Instagram, it's at CWU Environmental Club.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it has our logo, so it's pretty easy to find. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and students can also follow CWU Sustainability, and there's also a CWU Sustainability website where they can learn more about efforts on campus as well.
Perfect.
Alright.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. Those are some great resources.
And we will be sure to link everything so it will be easy for everyone to find.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Streaming is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Google Podcasts, and 88.1 The Berg.
Make sure to tune in to our next episode with NASU.
Native American Student Union.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming in, and we'll see you later, Wildcats.